Recently we had a Nintendo Nindies showcase, and I thought I'd talk with you guys a bit about the games we saw during this presentation, and some of my favorites, so sit back, relax, and let's talk indie games. We saw a lot of games during this presentation, but obviously not all of them is going to appeal to everyone, so I obviously had my favorites. Now, personally, I wasn't all that into this presentation. There were definitely some good games highlighted here, but personally, I didn't really see a lot of the indie games that I've been looking forward to in this presentation. I was hoping to see some No More Heroes or Shovel Knight's King of Cards, but sadly, neither of them showed up here. But I'm not saying there were no games for me here, because there were. I'm just saying that it was a presentation I found a bit underwhelming. However, we did have a few interesting games pop up. For instance, we got an announcement and immediate release of Into the Breach. The game doesn't look bad, it looks strategic and kind of interesting. I haven't played it, but I'll probably be skipping on it due to some bigger releases I'm kind of trying to prepare for coming down the road. But definitely a very interesting game that I might have to play sometime soon. You know, speaking of games that look pretty interesting that I might have to skip sadly on is The Messenger. I've never really been into Ninja Gaiden in the past, but I'm sure fans of those classic games are really keeping an eye on The Messenger. Just my assumption though. Personally, I find it interesting due to the 8-bit and 16-bit mechanic it seems to have, you know, where 8-bit is kind of in the past, but 16-bit is kind of like the future. It seems really cool. The game is also already out and seems to be doing really well, so I'm happy to see it have success. Now, Hyper Light Drifter is a game that I've been meaning to play for such a long time now. I just haven't had the time to really buy it and jump into it. I remember getting very close to making the purchase when it was first released on Xbox One, and I still haven't played it. Now that it's coming out on Switch, there's almost a guarantee that I'll be picking this up on that console instead. I mean, come on, it's a Zelda-inspired game that everyone seems to love. That's already enough for me to want to buy it. I want this game, but I just don't know if I'll pick it up yet. It just seems to be coming out at such an inconvenient time for myself, and I'm just unsure if I'll have the time again. I just hope this time I don't put it off for another year or so. Now, this is the #1 indie game that I've been waiting for on the Switch. I have played Undertale on Steam once before, and it was a blast. I had a ton of fun with it, and I was so confident that I was going to pick this up on Switch that I actually already pre-ordered a copy of the limited edition. So consider me pretty pumped up to play this again. Undertale has great music, a great story, and hilarious characters and situations. I can't wait to play this game again. Towerfall was a game I got to play a bit when it released for free on PlayStation Plus a while back. I got some friends together in the same room and gave it a run, and I can honestly tell you that Towerfall is a ton of fun. Probably some of the most fun I've had on a PS4 locally. A game like this totally belongs on a Switch, so much so that I'm surprised that it only just now getting on the console. But this is another game that I'm really happy to see. It's just a game where you and your friends are archers trying to kill each other while also being able to catch and pick up all the arrows, regardless of who shot it. It's simple, but really fun. I highly recommend checking it out if you need a good local game to play. Now, you should know that pretty much all the games I just mentioned are all releasing before the end of this year, but there are a few coming out later down the line that I also thought was pretty entertaining. Honestly though, my top 2 games for the presentation hasn't even been mentioned yet. You'd probably think Undertale was one of them with the pre-order and all that, but we already knew about that game, and I don't really count that for that reason. My top 2 games, I had no idea were even coming to the Switch. Maybe they were announced prior somewhere, but to my knowledge, this was the first time they were confirmed coming to the system. And those games were Untitled Goose Game and Mineko's Night Market. Untitled Goose Game is a simple game from what it looks like. You just play as a goose and be a total dick to people. I'm not sure what else is really involved, but I love that idea so much that I just want to play it. I have to do more research on the game, as this video is basically just my raw thoughts, so I haven't really stopped to look at other articles or information on the game or, you know, anything like that. Maybe the game is centered off doing specific things to piss off the people around you, or maybe the levels just require a specific amount of rage or something caused by your actions. I don't know, and honestly, I don't care. Regardless, it looks like a ton of fun. And the other game I mentioned was Mineko's Night Market. Now, Mineko's Night Market instantly stood out to me due to its really charming art style. Something a little unrelated, but I noticed that online people were complaining about too many indies looking similar to each other, in the sense of a ton of them utilizing pixel art. And while I do think many pixel art games are beautiful and fantastic games, they kind of have a point there. It's easy to sort of become uninterested when there's so many that look like that, which is precisely why Mineko's Night Market stood out to me. I know very little about the game, but it just looked adorable. It looked like a game you could relax and play. There's not much to say on this one, but in a sea of pixel art games, seeing a unique art style like this with a ton of cute characters and relaxing looking environments just really makes me want to play it. Obviously, there were a lot more games than that during the Nindies showcase, but those were pretty much the games that stood out to me in some capacity. I'll hopefully have the time to catch up with some of these, and maybe sometime in 2019 I'll also have the time to play that weird goose game in Mineko's Night Market. They look like a good time. But what did you guys think? Which game stood out to you exactly? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the subject. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video.